The October 31st, 2024, and it's 9 a.m. Agenda items will be taken on all items otherwise noted. No action will be taken on any item until it is properly agendized. To avoid meeting disruptions, please place cell phones and beepers in the silent mode or turn them off during the meeting. The board reserves the right to take items in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner. Items may be combined for consideration and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Restrictions on comments by the general public. Any such restrictions must be reasonable and may restrict the time, place, and manner of the comments, but may not restrict comments based upon viewpoints. Board of Commissioners special meeting. All or some of the Board of Commissioner meetings may elect to call into this meeting. The public can access this meeting at the above address. Roll call, we have Commissioner Keller, Commissioner Hendricks, and myself, Commissioner Hendricks. And we expect Commissioner Jacobson to be here in a few minutes. So you please ride for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Keller, would you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll open up the first public participation section. No action will be taken on any item until it's properly agendized. It is anticipation that public participation held at this time, though it may be returned to at any time during the agenda. Citizens wishing to speak during public participation are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment after discussion of each agenda action item, but before the board takes any action. Do we have any public comment? In chambers? Online? Seeing none, we will move forward. Item 4 for possible action, review and adoption of the agenda. I don't presume you guys have managed to get through this lengthy agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda as posted.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hendricks, second by Commissioner Keller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any public comment on the agenda? No. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Manager, 5A, possible action. Workshop on the creation of a position statement or position statements regarding major highways in Lyon County. Action may include providing the county manager and staff on what should be included in the position statement or statements. Discussion topics may include format and structure of a position statement, access management, and overall county goals related to highways in Lyon County. Mr. Haskin.
Good morning, Andrew Haskin, Lyon County Manager for the record. Getting my presentation up there. Oh. Well, first off, I just want to thank the commission for scheduling a workshop to discuss this. I think it's a really important issue in Lyon County. Really kind of trying to determine where we want to be with our highways and what that looks like into the future. This is the third one.
Could be you. Yeah, could be.
That one's brand new. I watched her unpackage it. So
From Amazon.
all right. You've already seen this, but I wanted to run through it one more time just to give the board some background. So the Nevada Department of Transportation, as you all know, is responsible for providing, operating, and preserving Nevada's highways. And while each community within Lyon County has at least one highway that runs through it, Lyon County is not responsible for the maintenance or construction, access to or operation of these highways. And we have to work on all of it. NDOT and Gold Highways serve them as the main roadway through each community through Lyon County. Route. Next slide, please. So I included this map, but just kind of an overall. I don't know why that keeps popping in.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
So we included this map of just kind of an overall view of the highway system, major highways in Lyon County. Obviously, there are a few smaller ones that NDOT maintains and operates. They're not included on this map, but we will get into that a little bit further in the presentation. But just wanted to have an overall overview of the highway system, the main highway. So next slide, please. So the purpose of a highway position statement is to have an official document adopted by the county commission that outlines the county's goals for NDOT controlled highways. Like I said earlier, what do we want our highways to look like throughout Lyon County in the future? Not necessarily what they are today, but what's the goal for that moving forward? The document can then be provided to NDOT and used by staff to advocate for those goals. I think that's really important to make sure that we're all on we're sending a consistent message to NDOT and other stakeholders and other organizations like Campo that work on these types of issues. And then finally, I do want to use this as a guiding document as we look to update the transportation master plan in our county master plan. That will help it. And when we went through the 2020 master plan update, the transportation master plan got changed significantly from what it was in the 2010. I actually feel like the 2010 had a lot more detail in it. Like to get back to that type of document. I think this will really help to create that. Next slide, please. So today is really a discussion with the commission on what we would want this position statement to look like. How should we structure it? Should there be multiple documents? Should it be one overall document? Do we, if there's multiple, do we want it to be structured by community? Do we want it to be structured by highway? Really, I'm pretty open to whatever that discussion looks like. We can certainly do that. Obviously we're not going to have a final document that comes out of today's meeting. What will happen is we're taking notes. We'll take all of that information and we'll compile it into one document and then multiple documents and bring that back to the board for approval once I have a draft of it. So type things that we could look at today and include in a position statement are our goals for speed, access management, traffic controls, and pedestrian safety. And so really that's not limited to talking about that, but those are my suggestions just off the top of my head. And then also want to have a conversation about the duration of this plan, meaning how often should it be reviewed? How do we look at it in the future?
Excuse me, Mr. Haskin, just for the record, I want to note that Commissioner Jacobson is present at 9:08.
Perfect. So with that, I'm really here today to listen to the board and take your suggestions on this stuff. I'll facilitate that conversation, or I can help facilitate that conversation, and we can go from there. I have, if it's helpful, you can go kind of to the next slide, but we'll go back. I have maps for each of the communities in Lyon County. Those maps show mile markers on the highways as well. And so, if that's helpful, if we want to address it on a very granular level, going all the way down to mile markers, we can do that. We can talk about specific intersections. There was maps included in the backup documentation. I apologize, they were probably kind of hard to read on that. Yeah. They were probably kind of hard to read on an 8x11, 8.5 by 11. Those maps were obviously much bigger, but it was difficult. We couldn't send out a big map to everyone. So with that, we can go through it, like I said, by community. We can go through it however you want. You let me know.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, I would kind of like the sense of the commission on how you want to do this. Do you want to go with an overall county policy and go into the separate areas, or do you want to go to separate areas first? And so I just kind of want to know how you guys want to do this. Go ahead.
I'd like to go as a county policy, but but we're going to break it down. I would like to break it down in the policy by mile markers. Just because of setting up a county policy. So we've got the overall, but every part of our county is different. So,
Mhm.
you know, if there's a big no growth, we don't need to have accesses there, but we want them closer together, or where grade separations go, or where there's landslides and stuff like that. We probably don't want to. So I think we should address it by mile marker after we get that's part of the plan.
So you're talking basically one document, but broken down by sections.
Right, so the county can address it, especially with planning of certain spots. And I don't want to go knee-jerk reaction on stuff to where we're addressing where there's a problem today. Because we got to look at what the problem is. What do we want it to look like 20, 30 years down the road? Not what are we fixing today and on the side of the highway. The overall thing will do that, but we work toward the 20, 30-year plan.
Mr. Jacobson?
I'm fine with that.
Commissioner Hendricks?
That sounds good to me too.
Commissioner Hockaday?
My concern would be looking at the problems we have today, because they're only going to get worse with population growth. So intersections like West Goldfield and 339, which we see, all of us see all the time. Those problems need to be addressed, I think, so that NDOT says, hey, we're going to do something about them in the future. That we've got to identify, we all know what the roads are looking like now. We've got to identify those. So basically, yes, let's identify the problems today that we know are going to be worse later. And in general, that's, I think, a good idea.
Dave, can you repeat the first part of what you said? You were breaking up. I'm sorry to ask you to speak again.
Yeah, I'm just saying that we are on the roads. We know what the problem areas are right now. So they're only going to get worse with the population growth. So we kind of roll into what Commissioner Keller said by addressing what we know is a problem today.
So, and I agree with what Dave's saying. We do have to know what's going on with our problems today, but we have to look at the overall picture. So a lot of the problem solving that we're going to do now would be temporary problem solving compared to what we want to look. So if we're putting up a light, it might not in the future, we want a light there at all. So it's kind of two separate.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's short-term goals and long-term goals, and that's how we've approached transportation in the past. I think that's completely appropriate, moving forward with this.
Okay, I'm gonna just take a stab at something. There's just an overall. I think it should be the policy of Lyon County that NDOT highways, we use them. The purpose of the highways is to move people and goods as quickly and as safely as possible, and to not do things that are going to hinder future economic growth or economic development. Yeah, and then when we get into the individual areas, there's some I have more concerns about than not, but I think that should, that is the purpose of these roads, to get people where they need to go as quickly and as safely as possible with minimal interruptions.
Absolutely.
And to, like I said, facilitate economic development and economic growth. So that's where I'm at. So we'll just see how we want to go.
One of the things that I forgot to mention too is that, kind of as we're going through this, obviously some of this affects the cities of Fernley and Yerington as well. So I do plan on engaging them as well with their portions of this place. It truly is a countywide plan.
Absolutely. That would help if the cities and the county are on the same page. So,
Yeah.
So how do you want to do? You want to open it up? You want to go by section, by the maps? Just talk generalities?
I think generalities, because right now I'm looking at, the county's gonna have to identify some of the suggestions we do, so that then we can break it down even more in depth, because right now I don't know where the best part for grade separations would be, which I'd like to be planned way ahead, so that we can do that. Also, I'd like to see some sound barriers to promote NDOT to sound barriers like we have on the freeways, to help stop pedestrian traffic too. So if it went across there, the pedestrians would be funneled towards certain crosswalks or whatever, and they're not just jumping anywhere. And that would help promote toward the freeway standards.
Mhm.
But we could start doing that now as far as getting pedestrians off the highway.
Yeah, and something that, I mean, like you said, we're not gonna get this done today. And that's something that might be helpful is on these maps that we have.
Mhm.
If we know where future development is already planned, to have that highlighted
Okay.
and what kind of development it is. Because obviously a housing development is gonna take different type of infrastructure than an industrial area.
Yeah,
So that kind of thing, that would be helpful, I believe.
absolutely. We can put something together. Well, we've been kind of working on a map anyway, so.
I would definitely like to include limiting pedestrian access and pedestrian education, because that's a big part of the issue that we're having.
I know about access to the highways. You know, where, we don't want to just, every 100 feet, we got a driveway, we get on the US highway. Yeah, that kind of, I was thinking that would allow it anyway, but. So,
Yeah, those distances, I know there's like a standard NDOT thing of so many feet between access points, but I think we really need to stretch out. We can be more, we can constrain more on the county level than on the state level. And so to me, if you live in the rurals, driving a mile down the road isn't a tough deal. You can go out on a frontage road and drive down a mile. It's not a big burden on anybody. So that would mean that accesses would be like 2 miles apart, because you're not to the center, you're always within a mile. And depending on the structure or what's out there, I'd like to see those spread out a little bit farther. Also, I don't want to see any businesses having access in the future into their, I want it to go to a road, not to a parking lot.
Okay.
Because we don't have, we don't regulate parking lot. And it becomes a roadway through a parking lot.
Okay. So that's certainly something that we can take a look at now. I mean, there will be instances where there isn't a road or there isn't a frontage road. And there is some applications there. But I think that we can put together something that works for that. And I understand the overall intent, and I think that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But this is a policy statement, so we're not gonna get that granular, I don't think, to driveway, but this is what we want. We want 2 miles between access. Not necessarily where the 2 miles might be, and we don't know that yet.
Right. When we get down into the basic, what planning is, we'll go by mile marker and say, okay, here to here, because sometimes it makes sense to have a 1.5 miles because of a big hill or whatever. So we'll have to be more flexible about that. But in generality, we don't want to push everything together. So as a policy statement, you're gonna say, hey, we want these separated out, go to frontage roads. If we have to, we'll go backage roads. I don't want to go to backage road because of the cost to the county. Also, on these maps, I want to identify the future artillery main roadways. I can't say that word. Change that name of that word. I want that identified on for future plans and everything else, so that we can see as development comes, we can send traffic to that to get it back, get a good game plan going.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah. Rob, anything?
Just probably some concern on the backage roads. I think that's where we're gonna get the most public pushback, but I would caution us as to putting backage roads in neighborhoods. We will get a pushback on that. I don't think anyone will disagree with frontage roads and safer entry and exit points, but I think some of those areas where we can't frontage roads, we're going to have to be very diligent to how those look and how we present that.
Mhm.
So going back to the backage roads, where I can see where it kind of makes more sense, because we already went through the study with NDOT,
Mhm.
is in Mound House. They don't have the right of way, and you'd actually be buying businesses up. So some of those commercial businesses, they had a plan to do backage roads around those businesses on there in Mound House. So that's where I was looking at some backage roads, but not, I agree with Commissioner Jacobson that we want to do
It's not.
backage roads.
No, it's not the ultimate solution, but I agree. You know, we want frontage roads where it's possible. Because the eastern end of 50, you know, once you get probably past Shabs Road, you know, we got the front road stuff. It's a lot nicer, a lot less traffic, a lot less people cussing about trying to get out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mhm.
You know, what we're gonna do about the areas where they don't have the property or real estate to put in frontage roads, that's a focus that we need to look at.
Yeah.
And do we want to encourage it to go ahead and buy a property and put in frontage roads? I mean, this is 10, 15 years down the road.
Sure.
For it to happen, but I agree, you know, Mound House is definitely one of our trouble spots. Out by Fort Churchill and that Riverview,
Mhm.
out that way, that's another one. And I just have a comment on, and general comment on 95A is we need passing lanes. There are no passing lanes, and there's also no guardrails in some spots. Yeah, I've driven that road, I don't know how many times. The snowstorm on December 31st of 2022 made me realize how much there's more guardrails there. Because ever since there was a guardrail on one side, but not the other. So consistency from NDOT would be nice. Tammy?
No, I agree with all that, and 95A especially. I think our goal for that needs to be to make sure it doesn't become the next Highway 50 situation. Because we're getting more and more traffic on that highway all the time.
Absolutely, and you know, specific to Silver Springs, and you know, there are already roads that call them package roads, but they're not really, they function that way, right? There's roads. So, but you know, making sure that some of those commercial lots along the highway, they're entering through those the back roads instead of right off of the highway. I think that's more or less what you're getting at, right? And I think taking a look at not only our policy statement here, but our design statements for that type of stuff, and I think some adjustments.
Backage roads, they're not recommended in residential areas, but they can be very effective in industrial and commercial areas.
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting to look up at the highway, we got another road to talk about is USA Parkway, right? We limit the accesses up to there. They've got that's a specific plan area. They can put in all their roads they need to do without having to come out on the highway.
Yeah.
You know, so that to me those should be really separated out there because of big truck traffic.
And
I agree.
yeah, the USA Parkway itself has created another problem on Rams Weeks where you need a right turn pocket. Now, I don't know if that's county, if that's NDOT. I don't know how far their right of way goes.
So right turn pocket. Where on Ramsey Woods?
If you're leaving here and you go up and you take Ramsey Weeks and you get up to 50,
Oh, I
there's a
see.
lot of people are turning right now to get to US Parkway to get up to the industrial park up there. And there's really not room. So like I said, I don't know if that's NDOT or if that's county, but
I believe if it's on Ramsey Weeks that you're talking about, which I think that's what I gathered, it would probably be the county's responsibility, but we'd have to get some NDOT permits because it's within NDOT right away. So the answer is a little both.
yes, well, my point is let's get NDOT to pay for
it. Well, and
Or federal.
yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I'm exploring is doing a preliminary engineering report on Opal. Which would
eliminate some of that.
you know, you basically go straight, you know, around the roundabout and go straight and then connect to Ramsey Weeks on there. That would solve a lot of the problems. It would solve some of the conflicts with the schools and everything there too. Long-term plan, I don't, you know, we're working on trying to figure that out. No,
I don't think anything that we're saying right now, we want you to go out and do tomorrow.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying, so I don't want people to think, oh, this is gonna happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, take a week.
But I mean, that's something that I'm taking a look at. There's kind of a more permanent solution for that, because I don't think that's gonna change.
The alignment of that would really perplexed me anyway.
Yeah.
But I
So-
have my suspicions.
We, you know, that the board is aware, we did a preliminary engineering study on Rams Peaks and what that would look like to lighten it. You know, we had put in for some congressionally directed funding for that, but the project was just too large for what the limits of the funding are.
Okay.
So my thought process on that is if we can split it up and do pieces, do part of Opal first, and then work our way down. We can eventually get it with that. So,
Okay.
already something that
Okay.
is in process on our.
Mhm.
As I was going through this, I did write down a question on that. Will this help us get government funding or put it or is this solely for us and NDOT, or is this there the benefits of doing this today and in the future, obviously?
The policy statement?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, again, having a goal and being able to present documentation, say, here's where we want to be. We, you know, that always helps, and it helps guide staff to know, okay, you know, here's a project that we want to get done. What's the funding so for?
So I guess my second question, part of that question, do we have some recommendations from folks on when we do something like this that it does match what would benefit us putting in for grants and other things?
That is an excellent point, and not one that I had thought of, so.
But I agree, having a policy statement in place and a plan certainly helps with acquire funding.
Because I think if we are solely resting on NDOT and developers to do some of this, I think we may be missing that third funding mechanism.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a great point. Thank you.
Sure. Hendricks. Commissioner Hockaday, you have anything?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, as far as the rural aspect, as I said before, there are issues with growth. And so I look more at what I've had complaints about with the growth issue and the intersections, all the way up to, south part of Silver Springs. So my concern has been all the problems on 208, trying to get into Upper and Lower Colony, the intersection there at Goldfield and 339, and then up through the 95A, which was already been discussed. Our significant policy needs to be up around the arterial routes, which would be 50 and up in 95A. So, I definitely think our policies need to address those areas, but with the safety issue of the intersections that we see routinely having problems. I know safety should be part of that policy, and that we're probably going to have significant issues at, again, my concern being Goldfield and 339. We're going to have some significant accidents there, I can see in the future, especially with traffic increase and truck increase. So I want to keep that rural issue of the intersections and turn lanes, left and right, say up near Texaco and Golden Gate, Now that those gas stations are in there, we do have a significant cross flow issue. So that's where I'm coming from on the rural areas.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission, Mr. Commissioner Keller? I just gave you a promotion.
So also, as far as NDOT's concerned, they're also in charge of rail and airports. And so I don't know if you're going to discuss any of that in this, because I'd like to promote rail, especially south down here, because we got a mine out here that we're trying to get back going. And I don't know if the farming industry could use rail to eliminate some of the traffic on our highway. I'd rather see it go on rail, and it makes more sense. So I don't know how to work toward that direction. That's just something I think we should be working toward. And I don't know about air, whether that needs to be done care or not, but the rail, I definitely think, and we could promote some of that.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Keller on, I would include air. In fact, you might want to just have a multimodal section in your policy statement.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, there can certainly be I don't know how specific we want to get with that, but maybe, but say that we're for the increase in rail capacity and rail service.
Multimodal facilities increase your economic development opportunities. So that's the angle I would take on that.
Absolutely.
You good? Can I put you on spot? No. Since your guys are the ones out on the street all the time dealing with this, I think your input would be very valuable on this. So just, not, you got to drill down real deep, but just, 10,000 foot level from the sheriff's department view.
Well, good morning, Lyon County Sheriff Brett Pope for the record. Sitting back listening, I think a 20 to 30-year plan, one is appropriate. I think the county should always be developing for future. However, being employed by the sheriff's office for nearly 20 years, I think that's been going on. And I'm not pulling the board alone, so just want to preface what I say with that. But the community wants, action now, and our hands are somewhat tied as we're waiting on NDOT to act. And for what we see in the NDOT meetings, Highway 50 Lyon County is not necessarily on the top of the priority list either. So I think we need to be careful with the direction we're going. I think the direction of short-term goals within 5 years is something that we really need to focus on, as well as we focus on the 20 to 30-year plan. For instance, we talked about Mound House reducing the speed 35 miles an hour quite a while ago. I know myself wasn't really a fan of it, but I'm willing to support NDOT doing that. However, we haven't even seen that change implemented yet. And so we do have a community that's affected right now throughout Highway 50 that I think we need to be cognizant. And they are looking for solutions immediately. And like I said, I know our hands are pretty much tied in that aspect. The sheriff's office, the commissioner, we soak up a lot of blame for actions on Highway 50. So it does, it does get tiresome. We're out there. I know you guys are trying to implement any changes that we can on Highway 50, Highway 95. The sheriff's office is out there doing as many traffic stops and traffic enforcement as we can. But until it and document that priority list, we're kind of stuck. So we had an accident yesterday, Highway 50, accident this morning. They just continue to pile up. And some of it, I'll tell some of the constituents, some of the self-accountability on our citizens. Driving reckless, etc. The sheriff's office is not omnipresent. We can't be everywhere at once. We got 3 deputies on at a time in Dayton. Sometimes, most of the time, 2 or 3, sometimes 4. But we can't be everywhere. And also told meeting members and presentations that be careful when you're asking for a government solution, because not everybody likes government solution. Not everybody likes when the sheriff's office was strictly enforcing the law and issue citations, so. Some of it's self accountability of our communities. Some of it is poor design or design that just hasn't kept up with it, so.
So you listen to all of our comments. You have anything to add, something that we might have missed that we want, like, okay, we have passing lanes.
Highway 95 definitely needs passing lanes. Myself, I travel it frequently and I've almost been head on several times. Spots where there's guardrails on both sides. That one area where there's guardrails on both sides, I have nowhere to go. I've almost been head on a couple times. Our community as a whole that uses 95 did not like the elimination of passing lanes that were there in the past, and they were dotted yellow lines that got painted solid.
And then they got painted dotted again, and then they got painted solid again.
So yeah, so the consistency is off. If this is the way they're gonna stick with it, like, let's stick with it, but definitely passing lanes going up Wabusca Hill. That would release a lot of the traffic that's not truck traffic. That would allow the passing of truck traffic right there. The truck traffic has increased. I don't have a specific number, but I would say it's probably 10 times. I've never seen so much truck traffic using Highway 95. Seems like ever since they closed it down in Fallon for that short time, they rerouted all the trucks through Lyon County. It's consistently stayed. So some of the traffic control devices we have installed. I know the Miller Lane one was a big deal, but since we put those stop signs up, we've only had one traffic accident. So those have helped. Traffic control devices on Highway 50, I think would help. I'm not a fan of it either, but some of these intersections just so out of control. Maverick, 6 Mile Canyon, etc. I see the developer for Traditions is getting permitted to put in a traffic light there. I think that'll help. But yeah, I think as a county, our goal should be to get them as safely and as quickly as possible through Highway 50. So,
As we said, this is not going to be a document that's done today.
yeah,
So your input is going to be very important as we go through the process.
yeah, and we're willing to provide it. Just again, ask the board to and NDOT. I've talked to NDOT to at least give us some kind of remedy in the near future. It's hard to explain to people when they're getting in car accidents. Don't worry, we'll be back in 20 to 30 years with the plan. So it's that's the hard part, and I guess that's politics in general. We all have to deal with it, but money doesn't grow on trees, and it's not just handed out, if it's the wrong county.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Commissioner Dickinson.
yeah, thank you, sir. Sheriff Pope, you don't have to come back up, but I do believe we're going to probably be looking for statistics somewhere embedded in this, and we'll probably be knocking the door for some of that as well.
Do you want to go through these, or do you want to wait till we get a draft back? Okay.
I do want to address
So,
that,
Commissioner Keller.
because it was brought up about NDOT and conversation. We did have a meeting with NDOT, but I think they're working with us or trying to at this point. It's up to us to come up with the plan of what I understood away from the meeting. We come up with the plan in there, and we could be even more stringent. And I think they want to go in the same direction we do.
Yeah, that was what I took away from the meeting as well, and I think yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other commissioner comments? And we will open up to public comment.
I had a couple before we get there. There was a couple more things that I want to mention.
Never mind.
So one of them being that I would like to see this plan as much as possible in line with our area drainage master plans, because there are some improvements in those area drainage master plans to the highways to convey water from one side to the other as it moves towards the river. Currently, that's pretty much limited to Highway 50 and 95A in Silver Springs, but as we develop more area drainage master plans, which is our goal, then we can include those in this document, as we move forward. The other thing too is that, through our marketing campaign through Human Services, we are working on, some messaging. Traffic safety is one of the key targets of that. And so I did want to mention that as well. Commissioner Hendricks brought up messaging and regarding pedestrian safety. So we are working towards that as well currently. So I think something that would be good to include more in this plan as well.
So you just brought up the drainage and stuff. So as we go to federal funding,
Mhm.
if we can, just for, I don't know, spec part of this plan, but you just brought it up. I'd like to see how we're going to break that down so we can do the drainage and see how it ties into any of the stuff that we need toward the highway.
Absolutely.
And yeah, because there's a redevelopment funding now that's going through Congress right now. It's either a CR or omnibus bill. So we want to get going on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we can get a twofer, improve the roads and do the drains at the same time on someone else's dime. It's even better.
Absolutely. I mean,
Might-
anybody that's driven through there in a thunderstorm knows that, sometimes the infrastructure that's there just isn't enough to meet the capacity. We've addressed that with NDOT because it is their infrastructure. But I think, having those area drainage master plans, having that included in there will help push that of those infrastructure improvements.
And you may want to just refer to, reference them in the copy document.
Probably have it as maybe not an appendix because those are 500-page documents. Have a huge book here as our policy statement.
Included by reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything else from the commissioners? Anything else from you? Okay, now we'll open it up for public comment. On item 5A, is there anyone in chambers that would like to make a public comment? I don't have to tell you the rules. I think you understand them.
Can you explain them to me?
State your name and you got 3 minutes.
Right. Vida Keller, for the record, Silver Springs residents. Anyways, I was just in your policy, you're talking about NDOT, you're talking about the highways. And then integrating, the county component to what that looks like. I just wanted to point out one thing when you're looking at the access on the county roads right off of a highway is a big issue as well. It's something I brought up as a commissioner that I wanted to have in the access management plan. I didn't hear that mentioned this morning, so I was going to be quiet, and of course here I am. To give you an example, I'll give you 2 quick examples. I've been through Silver Springs, Lake Street and Pyramid. When the county allowed them to build those buildings and they put in their driveways are so close to 95A that when you turn off the highway, if you're going into, say, Dollar General or Family Dollar, that's the 2 businesses there. Sorry, it's the names of the streets. You're making that quick right in and out. But if you're not going to Dollar, you're just going straight, you are so close to 95A and you've got people trying to come out of the store. Those stores became so busy now that there is constant fender benders. I don't know if the sheriff gets called every time. Near misses. It's crazy there, so those things I think need to be addressed with that, because you're looking at the NDOT side of it, the highway access, the frontage roads, and like with the Family Dollar, get the right one there, Family Dollar, I believe NDOT actually has the access for a frontage road there. If they was to put the frontage road in and used it, it would literally line up next to the driveway that the county said, hey, put the driveway here. So I think we need to look at that on the building side when we're at, people are putting in these businesses, where's that driveway? Like Dollar General easily could have put their driveway further back going in and out. Family Dollar actually has a second driveway, but they have 2. They still have one right up front. So those are things, safety. You brought up safety. Anyways, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, and it's good seeing you. Any other public comment in chambers? Any public comment online? Or raise your hand. I don't see anyone, so we'll bring it back to the commission. Mr. Haskin, do you have enough to get started?
I think so. I don't know. Do we want to quickly go through, each of the communities and talk about some of the major goals, or do you want me to get started first and then bring it back at another meeting and?
My thought was a draft and then,
Okay,
but that's just me.
Oh. When we did the highway widening project from Stagecoach through Silver Springs,
Mhm.
I remember Dustin was there as far as when we picked out where the roads were to get high Ts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And the way that we did it at NDOT was they rolled out the big maps and we just went right down the road. And so it's a lot easier to go, okay, wait, that road's never used. This one is, and so we knew our traffic patterns and everybody that lives in the certain areas instead of these little teeny maps. It really helped out as far as going, okay, that one, skip that one, go to that one. Can we maybe get together with NDOT providing some of those maps
oh, yeah, I think,
through certain high traffic areas like so we kind of look at it on a table and say, okay,
yeah, I actually think we have some of them. So it's something we can take a look at.
when we dive in and do it a little bit deeper, that's what I'd kind of like. I'm not at this stage, but when we're looking at, I'd like to have the whole thing in front of us.
Okay. We've got printer that we can print out on.
Anything? Okay. Yeah, I think just a draft of what we've got for you, the general ideas, and then we'll come and start refining it down.
Okay.
I think that's.
Is there something you wanted to bring up about on these maps at all that you just want us to think about before you come back with this policy? So we can start thinking about it?
Yeah, again, just thinking about the different topics that we talk about, speed, and just pull up my list here. Make sure I get that. Speed, access management, traffic controls, and pedestrian safety. I think those are the things that we want to consider. And, if we're gonna drill down into that on a community level, really having just, your thoughts on
Yeah,
what that should look like.
and not just pedestrian safety.
No,
Okay.
no,
You use that adjective, but I want to make sure it's safety.
safety overall, but yes,
Mr. Jacob.
Thank you, Chairman. What does the plan look like to involve the city of Arlington and the city of Fernley? At what point? Because I just playing devil's advocate, I don't foresee us holding up our agenda, waiting on them.
Mhm.
And to be fair to them, what's the timeline? Where do we include them? What does that look like?
Well, kind of how I envisioned this was a multi-step process. So, sounds like today we're gonna, you're giving me direction to move forward with the overall kind of general, here are the goals. Then we're gonna drill down into each of the communities. So I think when we get to those communities, I don't, it may even look like a joint meeting between the two. That's a possibility. But discussing that, really, at the very least, I'm gonna have to sit down with, the city managers and mayors of those communities and figure out what their goals are. I mean, I know that we don't want to dictate that from the top down. I think they need to be involved with that process throughout.
Right. I would just, after you kind of go through what the commissioner shared today, I don't know if you do a summary of that or not, but I would just include maybe sending that to the mayor of each city, then let them either begin looking at that or not. But I think getting them involved as early as possible will help us with the countywide plan.
I agree. 100%.
Mr. Keller, you have something?
I'm going to ask a dangerous question. Are we going to have any community involvement in this?
That's up to the board on what the process of this looks like. I mean, we can certainly do that as far as each individual community, but I do think that the policy needs to be driven at the board level. Each community is kind of focusing, they've got narrow
Well,
focus on what,
I'm saying if we don't do that, I think all of us probably kind of know the priorities of the communities that we represent.
yeah. So like I said, it's completely up to you. I can have as many meetings as you want on this. I think it's,
Yeah,
but
I think community input is important, but we don't want to do it too early. We want to have, this is what we're proposing before we go out, let them pick it all apart.
Yeah.
Mr. Keller?
I was right on with that about down the road a little bit farther. If anything, if we come up with a policy, because we're gonna make it a county-wide policy and not particular to a neighborhood. But then when we get down to those neighborhoods of what we plan, I do want to go out to the individual communities so they know what to expect and what's on the, so they don't go, we never heard about that. I think it's
yeah,
definitely go back and talk to them.
yeah. I mean, I think community involvement is important. I agree with exactly what you're saying. Let's come up with a draft and then we'll go so that we have something to present.
Okay. So if we put this one to bed? I think so. Then we are. Yeah, I got a question for you. Okay, so it is 9 minutes to 10. We're gonna go ahead and take a recess. We have a closed session at 10 o'clock in your office. And then after that, we will come back and tackle 5B.
Perfect.
So we are not adjourned, but recess.
Yeah, I would say maybe 10:30 or 10:45.
Okay. Okay, so we will be in recess until 10:35.
10:45 maybe.
10:45?
Yeah.
Make up your mind.
10:45.
We'll be in recess until, because once we say it, we can't come back earlier.
I know.
We say 10:30 and we get done.
I'll,
We'll be in recess till 10:30
okay.
or so.
Thank you so much.
There's wonderful back here. All right. We ready?
Yep.
We good? Okay. All right. It is 10:52. We are calling the special meeting of the Lyon County Board of County Commissioners back to order. Next item up on the agenda is item 5B for possible action, review the Nevada Department of Transportation, NDOT, draft rural engagement plan and provide direction to the county manager on possible submissions and comments on the draft plan. Mr. Haskell.
Andrew Haskett, Lyon County Manager. So, yeah, I don't have a presentation on this one. I have the draft plan in front of me. NDOT is seeking comment on this draft plan. I think the comments are due at the end of the month or end of November. And so really just wanted to provide it to the board, see if you have any comments that you want to be submitted, and then I can get that all drafted up and get it turned in.
Okay, well, thank you. I have a couple comments and I'll turn it over to the rest of the commissioners. Just want to say NDOT's really good at making plans. They're not necessarily good on following through with them. One thing that I did notice about this is, section 2.0 says rural consultation, whatever it is. And then, 3, yeah, arterial. Then rural consultation process. And then when it gets back in the back, they start talking more about cooperation and collaboration. My only comment is I would like to see that word used throughout the document and not consultation, because that doesn't mean anything. Hey, we're going to close your highway. You've been consulted by, so that's my only comment on this. So I will turn it over to Commissioner Hendricks.
And that was my comment too. I'd like to see that happen earlier in the process, so where we get to the end and realize we're not all on the same page.
Okay.
Jacobs.
when I was looking through it, maybe I missed it, but just timelines on projects, is there some way we can speed up some of these processes, or have they looked internally at ways in which they can move stuff forward a little quicker? I don't understand. I don't understand timelines on some of this stuff. And why, if doing something the right way, has to go the long way.
Okay.
Mr. Keller?
I did, was looking at one thing in there about fine cleaning and stuff like.
While you're looking, Director Holman, to address Mr. Dickinson.
Good morning, Dustin Holman, Road Director for the record. So you know, or I've been told by some of the NDOT personnel that I deal with, more of the local guys, boots on the ground, that the rules really struggle with competing with Washington and Clark County, basically. Their bigger projects typically get funded sooner than the rules just because of the population in those two counties. So they may have a project. I know at some point I have been told that about putting passing lanes in 95, but that's several years down the road because they got to fight for that funding to do something on a road now as more traffic accumulates on it. Hopefully that will help us. But the big projects, freeways and everything, and Clark County and Reno take a big bulk of that money. That's where the people are. And so they have said that the rules really struggle with trying to get money for projects.
And that's part of the problem with the One Nevada program, because they look at most people for the dollars. But yeah, something, Mr. Keller?
Yeah, so on that subject, one of the big things we have to do is leverage what the cost of benefit ratio is on these projects that we do and show that it benefits them. So like when we did USA Parkway, it was a 9-to-1, I think it was 7-to-1 benefit ratio because it benefited Story County and Reno. And so when you're benefiting Reno on commerce or anything else, or moving their goods, that type of thing, we leverage it more and get that funding for our highways because they have to travel down our highways to get where they're going. So we have to really leverage that. I was looking at the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which I don't even know anything about. But again, that's part of our safety thing for our county plan. And I don't ever hear about them, or I don't know anything about them. I think we should see if we can leverage that committee into getting some of our stuff that we want to get done.
That is a very active committee and not.
So, I mean, but if we're not at that table,
Right.
then
Yeah, and maybe, but it just seems like some of these projects, let's take passing lanes, for example. So there's projects going on that have to remove a bunch of fill or whatever. Why can't some of that material working with NDOT be stored where we're going to have to raise the level to put in passing lanes or whatever? I just think that we could work together on some of those things to speed up the projects and to make it cheaper. And I just don't get it.
In a situation like that, they're gonna be doing it all close proximity because it's the trucking that's expensive. So they're gonna want to try and make that whole little area bounce as far as cut and fill. They're not gonna want to be transporting material.
Commissioner Hockaday, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, got to agree that a lot of the information in this it's generic, but consultation and cooperation, coordination. It seems like NDOT is always top down on us, and anything that we want from the rural counties. It's yeah, sorry, we got Washoe and Clark, and if you get anything left over, you'll get it. But many of those residents from Reno are using our roads. We know that on 95A, we know that on USA Parkway. They're coming through these areas, and that money has to be spread to the same routes that they're using and that we're using every day. So I think that's where the consultation breaks down, and them thinking, well, it's just us out here using the roads. Nobody else is. And tell that to the people on Miller Iazi and Pete Hendricks.
Okay, thanks. You know, one more comment I wanted to make on this, and this is in section 4 about NDOT. Exhibit 3, where they say the key roles they played. It says the NDOT director has meetings with county leadership. I remember they used to make a presentation to every county commission once a year. And that would be nice to see. And it was the NDOT director and senior leadership. But they say what these rural liaison, they don't really flesh out what their jobs really are and what the interrelationship is between NDOT and the rural communities on that.
Okay.
It's just a comment. So, anything else from the commissioners? Okay. Commissioner Keller.
I'm just looking at this.
The other engagements that we have, and I know it's hard to do with building relationships that are important with NDOT, but what you get turnovers and everything else and moving back and forth. But other ongoing engagement process, what do we do as far as bringing the private sector in for our county, as far as helping our growth? And what I mean by that is, do we talk to the like Webster Ron stuff and have them help us support issues and the trucking industry and stuff like that to show that we need the process? I don't know if we talk to them as far as when we talk to NDOT, we don't have them on our side. We just kind of talk to NDOT. So I don't know if we should be
Okay,
more involved in that.
all right, I think I understand what you're asking.
I'm looking at their other ongoing processes, and we're not in any of that.
And while we're on that subject, the TPAC, the Transportation Primary Advisory Committee, that used to be called the STAC. And when I was working at NACO, I actually chaired that committee for a while. So that's something, we need to make sure NACO's on top of, involved in that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where we are ended up a little bit of problems is a lot of these other advisory boards are doing stuff not with us.
Right.
And we want to make sure that we're everything and we're using all the leverage we can.
Okay.
I know they have a schedule where every section of road is maintained every so many years and everything. Can we get that schedule so that we can know when they're going to be working on certain sections and start asking for what we want to see there right away and get it included in part of that process?
I can sort of ask.
Before they roll out the trucks. Anything else from the commission? Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Anybody in chambers? Hello. Anybody online? Public comment. Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay, so do you have enough direction? Do you want it in a motion, or do you think because I envision you're gonna take this and then bring back the letter for final approval before you send it out?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. So yeah, if you put it in a motion then.
Okay. Somebody want to take a stab at it?
I move that we direct the county manager to propose a letter and bring it back to the board for final approval.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner Hendricks, a second by Commissioner Keller. We got public comment. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. 6, commissioner comments. Commissioner Jacobson.
Apologize for being late. I forgot my ballot and I like hand delivering, so I turned around and grabbed it. I've got it sitting here. I gotta turn it in. So I do apologize
That's
for being a
important.
few minutes late.
Hillary.
No, I don't have
Commissioner Hendricks.
No.
Commissioner Hockaday.
No.
I do have
No.
real quick. I just want to wish everybody a happy real Nevada Day. And also happy Halloween. Don't eat too much candy. Okay, we're going to move on to our second public participation. No action will be taken on any item until there's properly agendized. As anticipated, public participation will be held at this time, though may be returned to at any time during the agenda. Citizens wishing to speak during public participation are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment after discussion of each agenda action item, but before the board takes any action. Do we have any public comment? Here are online. I do not see any. It is 11:05 and we are adjourned.